Hi, everybody. Good day to you. My name is Lory Quackenbush. I'm with APMG. I am a business development manager for the USA and Canada, and we are here today talking to Rick Lemieux of DVMS Institute. They manage the NIST Cybersecurity Framework, and we're going to have a chat about the current situation, and we're going to talk about the business side of cybersecurity and take a few minutes. Rick, thank you for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Lory, for having me. Looking forward to today's discussion.
Absolutely. We decided to put this together because we thought it was so important. I've been reading article after article talking about, the ways of the world for cybersecurity, especially 2025 going into 2026, how things are going. And we just wanted to have a conversation about it. So I brought in Rick, again, of DVMS Institute. They manage the NIST Cybersecurity Framework. Just to kind of, let's just get into it. Let's just chat about, talk about the business side of cybersecurity, what's going on right now. I mean, we're almost to April of 2025, and let's get into it. So I brought an expert. Rick, what do you think? Let's talk about
Well, no, it's a greit topic, Lory. I've been doing this for a long time. I've been in the IT service management business for over 44 years. I think I've seen every transformation that has ever, come about as a result of digital and digital services. I'm showing my age here, so my apologies. But, I will tell you this, that we're going through another transformation right now. A lot of people don't understand it because when they think about cybersecurity, especially from a credentialing point of view, they think about, I need to get a CISSP or I need to get a CISA or I need to get a Security Plus. And by the way, those are all still valid and valuable certifications, all right? But they are all technology focused, right? They talk about how these digital systems come together to enable networking and applications and other capabilities that underpin all the digital services that businesses utilize today to drive revenue and profitability and growth. But one of the things they don't address in great detail is really the business side of cybersecurity. Because let's face it, at the end of the day, digital's there to enable business capabilities. It has nothing to do with technology capabilities. It has to do with business capabilities.
Right.
So if you're in this business or want to get into this business, or you're in another line of business in the IT areas that I think cybersecurity is an area that you might want to move into. I think my recommendation is to look at it through a business lens, right? And start to look for training and certifications like the ones we offer that are focused around governance, risk, and compliance. All right, I've mentioned governance a few times in other webinars that I've done, because governance is where the rules are set. All right, and they're either set by the government or they're set by commercial enterprises as to what is their appetite for risk? How much risk are they willing to assume? And how much risk needs to be mitigated in order to meet the policies and the programs that have been set up under the governance model. Okay. Risk is another thing. All right. I think, a lot of people, they plan for risk every day in their everyday businesses. Enterprise risk management has been around since the beginning of business. All right. And so, if you're a financial services company and you provide, loans to buy homes, you look at financial risk. What's the risk of lending money to a guy like Rick Lemieux? Is he, qualified to, pay it back? And, what's his credit history and whatever else? Well, same thing needs to hold true when you develop digital services. You need to look at the risk to those services, the value associated with those services, and then make decisions about how do you protect that value, especially if it's something critical or a critical service that generates a lot of revenue for the company. And if that were to go away, what would happen to the company? I'll give you one example. If you look at United Healthcare as an example, it cost them $2 billion to recover from a cyber attack that took down their ability to process insurance payments, across the United States. Okay. So it was a big issue for them. And once again, somebody needed to be thinking about this from the business side. Obviously, it didn't happen, and they experienced this major outage that cost them a lot of money and a lot of brand reputation as well. So, I think as an individual, this is a good area to get into because it involves not only the governance component that I mentioned, the risk component, but also the compliance component. Now, I'm going to throw a couple things into this in a second that will kind of change the R and C of GRC, but I'll just give you an example of compliance. A lot of the regulators or a lot of the governments have been putting in place new regulatory requirements for the financial services market, the healthcare markets, critical sectors. That these are things that have to be there in order for us to survive as a
Right.
society. And so, so you need to be compliant with those regulations. And if you're not, you'll experience fines and other sorts of,
Right.
things that the government's gonna come at you with. All right. So it's important for you to understand that. So I think, we need more people in the GRC space now because I think the technology world is kind of getting a lot better than it used to be. And now with AI, they can even put additional capabilities into the technical side that can do some of those administrative things that usually require a room full of people. This will be a lot of analysis, a lot of recommendations that I think will help us get better on the technology side. But we really need to get much better on the business side. And that's where
Agreed.
GRC professionals come into play. Now, I'll just add one more thing, Lory, and I'll give you an opportunity to ask me the second question. But I've been looking at the GRC space for a while now, especially in the line of business that we're in helping organizations build this holistic and adaptive approach to digital governance, operational resiliency, and also performance measurement, performance assurance, as they call it. And so, it's really, if you think about it, governance is the same. Governance will always be governance, right? But I think if we look at the second R, which is risk, that really needs to become resilience, all right? Because resilience is what the outcome the organization is trying to achieve by managing its risk, okay? So you still have to figure in everything that the risk portion of GRC talks about, but the outcome that you're trying to enable is resiliency. So that's another area that the business really doesn't understand. They always talked about business continuity. There are organizations that offered backup services for technology that would fail. They could recover it and keep the business going. But it's gone beyond that. All right. Now that the risk to impacting those technologies is far more dramatic, you need to really build resiliency right into the business. And that's where I think the
Right.
second R comes in. And the
Right.
third is compliance. While compliance is where you want to get to, all right, what you really want to ensure is that you have the capabilities that you can actually do the things that the compliance calls out. Compliance has typically been a checklist thing. Do you do it? Yes. Maybe we think we do, but we'll still check yes. You didn't have to verify. In today's world, you have to verify because if you say you're compliant and you experience a substantial breach that impacts your customers and others, then you become liable for that. Okay, it creates a
Right.
bigger problem for you, like we've seen with some of
Right.
these larger incidents that have happened, and so on. So I say, it's GRC, but it's also kind of GRA at the same time.
Mhm. Right. Makes complete sense. Thank you so much for this. It's such a good conversation, and I love getting into the nitty gritty of what's going on today. So let's just throw a curveball at you. So say I'm a now obviously there's a NIST cybersecurity, the full framework, the certifications and things. So say I'm an individual and maybe I'm interested in say career advancement. Maybe I'm looking for a
Mhm.
cybersecurity job. We all know that cybersecurity there's substantial growth, especially right now. So and there's maybe not so many skilled professionals out there. So if I'm interested in maybe beefing up my resume, how would a NIST cybersecurity certification help an individual kind of stand out? How would that be make them competitive in the job market?
Yeah, no, that's a great question, and it's funny. It's if you would ask me this question 5 years ago, I would say, well, this is still a problem that businesses don't know they have. Okay, but 5 years later, fast forward, where we kind of thought it was going to go, thank God it went in that direction, is that, the need for, GRC capabilities is there. Businesses understand that. Governments understand that. Okay.
Yep.
I mean, that's why the NIST framework was created. It falls into that category. So it tells you how important it is when the government builds a standardized approach to managing risk. Okay. So that tells you it's really important.
Right.
But let me approach this from, how do you go from where you are to where you want to go? Okay. Now let me start with somebody who knows nothing. And I don't mean that literally. They know a lot of things, but they don't know anything about cybersecurity risk, cybersecurity resiliency, governance, risk compliance, all those things, right? And the perfect example of this is a college student or a college graduate, right? And I know this firsthand because we have an internship program that we run every summer. I think we're going on our fourth cohort this year. It's so popular that this year we had 1,100 students apply for it. We only take
Oh,
16. All right. So the first three cohorts that went through it, they had, I guess there's some sort of app out there, some channel where they talk about all these internships and they go, these are the greatest one ever. You got to get it. So 1,100 students. Broke our
wow.
heart that we couldn't take them all in. But yeah, we only can afford 16 at a time because of the way we run the program. But we take students who have no industry experience. The only experience they have is what they've learned, in their college career. And typically, a lot of that's focused around technology. So when they come to us, they're like, governance, risk, and compliance? What is that? We've never heard about that, right? So we take them on the journey, putting them through the programs that we offer. And it's really interesting and fascinating to watch how quickly they learn, how quickly they adapt to what this is, and how much fun they have doing it. Okay. Because we take them from knowing nothing to the end of the program where they know how to do everything. Then we actually put them in front of a real customer to do a real assessment, to provide the real results of the assessment, and to provide
Wow.
recommendations. Now you got to remember
Wow.
this is over, I think it's a 8-week period. All right, so it's 2 months, and they go from nothing to
Love it.
becoming employable in this space. In fact, most of our
Oh,
graduates we've helped them get jobs in companies. In some cases, we've hired a couple of them because they were so good. We wanted to keep around to expand our business and do training and other things for us as well. So that's one sample. Okay, the other sample is and that also applies to people who are in one career may have nothing to do with IT or cyber who want to come into this field. It's a
hmm.
I call it's a really attractive on ramp for someone to come in. All right, because it doesn't
Bridging that
involve
gap.
knowing code and all this other stuff. All right.
Yeah.
If you're a person in IT or in cybersecurity technical side who want to come over to the other side, the business side, once again, you've been programmed to think a certain way. You've been programmed to work a certain way. So you will have some legacy that you're going to have to unpack and put to the side so that you can walk in with a mindset that's wide open. But that's part of what we teach. We teach
Right.
people, you know, who are you? What do you know?
Right.
And more
Right.
importantly, what don't you know? And how do you put yourself into a mindset to learn something new? And that's a little bit more challenging because once again, if you've been doing certain things a certain way, it's really hard to
Right.
reprogram yourself. But that's the world we live in. My favorite new word,
Change.
adaptability. You have to be adaptable as
Adaptability
an
and
individual.
change.
And so I think
Especially,
this is a great opportunity, a great market, and I encourage as many people as you can possibly think about to come into it because this is just the beginning of a highway that's going to be around for a long probably be around forever, probably long after I'm not here anymore, so all good.
well, thank you so much. So powerful. And then I'm going to throw you one last curveball question, if you don't mind. So we
Mhm.
talked about, the business from the side of, if I'm an individual looking to, again, get the skills that I need to be, to enter this field or to, develop more skills. But
Mhm.
okay, let's also put on now, say I'm a, a business, an organization. Now, obviously, cybersecurity is industry agnostic, right? It can happen to everybody. It doesn't matter which field you're in. Now, say I'm a large corporation and I'm now
Mhm.
we can talk about the benefits, right? Like staying ahead of emerging threats and building the credibility and the trust that you need. But like in a short, what kind of, I guess, advice would you give to the large corporation? Maybe you're in
Mhm.
B2B. Like how would they get started? Like what kind of advice would you give them on
Sure.
the business side of things?
Yeah, I'll actually even take that further if it's okay with you, Laurie.
Take
I'll
it
talk about
further.
the high end, the medium, and the
Please
low end.
do.
Okay, the small, medium,
Yep.
and large, if you will.
Yep.
So let's start at the high end. Okay, I always just like to use my Wizard of Oz analogy. Right, when Dorothy's trying to get home, and the good witch or whatever basically says, "You've always had it, my dear." You've always
Yeah.
had the ability to go home. You just weren't thinking that way. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's true in the high end of the market as well. A lot of the capabilities that we teach, basically they already have. They just need to tune them in a way that is, getting to the station that they want to listen to, which is protection of their digital business. Okay.
Right.
And
Right.
so when we take them through our training, it's an absolutely amazing thing to see, where we go through the second or third day of our practitioner course, and you watch these really smart people who have been doing, cyber and IT for many, many years have the dot connecting moment where everything connects in their
Aha
heads going,
moment.
whoa, I never thought about that before. And once they see it, they can't unsee it. And they now have shifted their thinking from the 20th century into the 21st century modern enterprise. And after that, it's so much fun because they are now. So we take them into, after that epiphany, we take them into a bunch of exercises where they get to apply a lot of that in the classroom, and they're attacking their own business, and it's amazing to watch how quickly they learn and they just grab it and they bang, they're on top of it. So once again, they've always had it, they just need to be able to see it, and that's where we take them to that point. Okay. The small and medium businesses are a little different. All right. Because for me, at least this is my idea or my view, is that they have to go through a two-step journey. Right. The first step is they need to get in sync with their business. And you're probably saying, what does that mean?
What do you mean by
Right.
that? Yeah.
Well, basically, a lot of small businesses, who grew from a one person operation, in a living room or a garage or whatever, who have grown into a very successful business, and the business has grown rapidly. There's a lot of changes they made along the way to support that growth. And while they were making changes to support the growth, they didn't really do things to deal with some of the systems or capabilities that they don't need anymore, that they might be paying for, or that they might need to worry about from a risk point of view. They got software in place. They don't need any more other
Right.
capabilities, right? So they
Yeah.
need to basically get in sync with their business, understand exactly how their business operates today, from a financial point of view, from an application point of view, from a project and program point of view. All right. Those
Right.
are really the three
Right.
things we want them to get in sync with. Once they're in sync with it, they go, okay, now I'm in control. I understand everything that I have. All right. Now we take them on the second half of the journey, and that is, how do they put in place the capabilities to have this holistic and adaptive view of their governance, of their resilience, and of
Right.
their assurance. Okay.
Right.
And so, and a lot of the things that we expose them to, they know these are terms and capabilities that they already have in their business. But we can't take them there first. We have to get them in touch with their business, because we're going to take them on a second get in touch journey. And that's really along the lines of, risk, and looking at, what risk does your business face based on the services that you offer, based on the markets that you're in. And not only will it teach them digital risk, but it will teach them business risk, competitive
Right.
risk, things that they
Right.
don't really think about, but they need to be thinking about. And that's how
Right.
we handle with the small to medium sized businesses.
Absolutely paramount. Thank you so much for breaking it down. I think that really will resonate and make sense with a lot of people here. So, well, this is
Excellent.
wonderful. I really, Rick, can't thank you enough. So, anybody that's listening to this, if you have any interest, you want to learn more about, the NIST Cybersecurity Framework. Maybe you're that individual looking to, spice up your resume, or you're, an organization looking to actually, again, small, big or small, and you're looking for to get some protection here, you want to get some of your employees certified, you can reach out to us. Again, this isn't a sales pitch. We really just wanted to get into the state of, business today, and kind of looking through that business lens that Rick had talked about. So thank you so much, Rick. We really appreciate everything that you're doing. I know you're very busy. There's so much going on in this world of cyber right now. So thank you so much for taking a few minutes to kind of talk about this today, and
Oh, my
where
pleasure,
we're
Lory. My pleasure. I'll tell you, I that's what I love. I love talking to people who are in the business, who want to get into the business, I probably get about 25 to 30 college kids connect with me every day on LinkedIn asking me for advice. And I love giving out advice. I love to
Yeah.
share all the wisdom and knowledge that I've accumulated over my career, and especially in the section we're in right now, because this is really fun and it's exciting. And there's a lot of opportunity to go along with that. Just to add to that, I have a community on LinkedIn called the NIST Cybersecurity Framework, a community of practice. And you can join that if you want to remain, totally anonymous and just ask questions.
Yeah.
They come into the community. There's, I think, 18,000 people in the community right now, growing every day, and they'll be more than happy to answer your questions along with myself. So,
Yeah.
Lory, I really enjoyed today a lot. Thank you so much for
Absolutely.
inviting
Going
me to
back
be part of
to
this.
going back to the analogy, he's like the Wizard of Oz of all things cybersecurity.
You've always had it, my dear.
Wizard of Oz. Right. We will, of course, we'll put links to APMG International in case you're, immediately looking for any help. But if you want to link up with Rick, we'll, of course, put his information there as well so you can join that community and talk to him. So thank you so much. We appreciate everybody listening. And Rick, thank you so much for giving us this great synopsis on all things
My
cybersecurity.
pleasure.
We really appreciate it. Thank you
My
so much.
pleasure.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Take care.